Hello, everybody. You're listening to Shield Hero Weekly once again, finally on the main channel.
Pew, 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 pew. We did it, baby. Congrats on getting the channel back, by the way.
It's a beautiful time. I re-uploaded the previous episodes, and now we're here permanently because it deserves it. It's a big show. It's a big podcast. We're doing long-ass videos about every single episode, so...
Indeed.
Feel like this is appropriate. Before we even talk about episode 5, right?
Correct.
5?
Yep.
I gotta address the comments on the previous episode.
I have not looked at them. Yeah, what do they say?
Oh, boy. So there were a lot of comments that were like, you guys are overthinking the whole Raftalia aging / him not being able to taste thing.
Oh, okay.
There's like 100 comments that are saying that, you know, depression can make it so you don't taste anything.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah.
And he just didn't perceive Raftalia as older. It's just the depression. That's it. He's just so depressed that he didn't notice. Actually, some of these comments, I don't even know what they're arguing. Well, like, some of them are very strange.
I mean, frankly, okay, they're giving a possible explanation where I had none, so I suppose I'm willing to hear that out.
Well, let me tell you, Nate.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to frame this in a way that is as non-spoilery as possible.
Okay.
But I think the reason that I had believed that this was the result of the Curse series was partly that when I was first reading the manga, I was also reading 4chan threads about it from people who were reading the light novels.
Sure.
And I have had at least one comment confirming that this is definitely part of the Curse series. But the reason I'm willing to say this out loud and not consider it a spoiler is, how fucking stupid do you have to be to not recognize that he literally sees a child version of her?
Yes.
He literally, we see it happen. We see from his perspective that she is an actual child still wearing the slave rags. And then the thing says, curse lifted. And then he sees her as an adult and he says, who are you? I have never seen this person before.
He did, yeah, that was his exact reaction, yeah.
And there were people telling me that, like, because of the fact that Raftalia, you know, she grew up rapidly because of the leveling up thing. And they're like, oh, well, it's just that because it's been so short of a time, he still thinks of her as a kid.
That wouldn't make any sense, though. That would not make...
No, it doesn't.
Why would he witnesses her with his eyes every day, so there's some block of some kind. That depression doesn't make any sense on that point. Makes none. No. So there's something else going on, I guess.
Yeah, I would be willing to buy the food thing, that he's just so depressed he can't eat, or he can't taste, but it's very clear, explicitly in the fucking show, that he literally does not see her as who she currently is, which is why he is confused when he sees an adult and is like, who are you?
You know, there's one possible explanation that we haven't touched on, and that explanation is bad writing. It is possible that
That's the thing. It would have to be that if these people were correct. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, that is so retarded. There's no way it could be true. Like, agreed. I would have to have, in order for me to believe that, I would have to have so little faith in the author. Like, I would have to think, it would ruin the story for me. Like, if I really believed that he was just so depressed he couldn't fucking perceive that she had grown, I'd be like, this story is stupid and I hate it. So please don't argue for the story being bad and dumb when it clearly is trying to suggest that there's more at play here. Sure, we're not going to get an explanation for a while.
Yeah.
And to the person who left the comment saying that, you know, I was on point, he said, like, it takes a long time before this is explained in the light novel. So I don't even know if this is explained in the manga yet, you know?
Fair enough. I'm not up to date, but I don't remember anything about it.
But I think it's obvious, so that's what they're trying to suggest. I just got really mad because there was a lot of comments like that, and I was like, why would you want the show to be bad? Like, why would you want to believe that it's just stupid?
I do think that's the most likely explanation, that there's more going on to it, because it's so noteworthy. But on the food thing, those are the comments that I mostly saw, and I don't know, maybe. I mean, your explanation definitely would make sense if those two things are linked in some way, but I don't know. Maybe that is a fucking depression thing that I just don't understand. I guess I don't really care either way. Something was going on. Either it was this kind of vague, metaphorical, like, hey, my life's gotten better, so now I can taste things, or it's directly related to magic. In either way, this is a magic system that the author made up anyway to, like, convey an idea. So, you know, you could either do that through him being depressed or literally tie it into the magic system of the world in some way. Either way, doesn't really make a difference to me, the reader.
It's just a matter of verisimilitude, you know? It's like...
I forget what that means.
Basically realism, but like not actual realism, like realism within the context of the story, like
sure.
believability. If you tell me that he has a curse placed on him that has caused him to have these effects, I believe that. If you tell me that he's just so depressed that he couldn't tell she had grown, I'm just like, that's stupid, because that doesn't fall in with what I understand of depression. The eating thing I can kind of understand, because there's some basis for it. And personally, as someone who's been depressed, I've never experienced that, so it's hard for me to relate to. But like, sure, whatever. There's a logical basis for it. But the other thing is just like, come on, guys, don't you think that maybe the story is trying to suggest something, considering that the story is always suggesting things like this, that it's like constantly hinting at, you know, like untold truths coming in the future? I don't want to shit on the listeners too hard. I just got really heated about it.
That's understandable. Well, I'm pretty much with you on most of that.
Yeah. All right, so anyway, episode 5. This is an interesting one. Mm-hmm. You've read this. You've read a lot farther than me. I've never read this far in the manga. I've never been to this point. Mm-hmm. So for me, experiencing it for the first time, I've seen other people online saying that they're like worried that this show has just become a generic isekai harem now. How would you answer that criticism?
As of this episode?
Yeah.
Okay, so to people who aren't familiar with the story, I understand why. Okay, I mean, well, whatever. People have watched the episode by now, so I don't give a shit about just going into it. So, like, yes, by the end of this episode, we've got, like, basically a new lolly, like, on the squad, which I understand why people would think. They're like, oh, okay, so the Raftalia arc is done now. Let's get our new, like, female cast member going on, and we'll, like, we'll start, like, building out this harem for our MC. Knowing that and, like, other things that happen later in the story, I understand why people might be inclined to think that that is what what like the author is doing. And to a degree, I sort of agree. But it's about, like, first of all, our character Naofumi is sexually a stone wall. When, like, Raftalia, even in this episode, we see clear advances. She's, like, trying to get him to check out her tits when he gets the curse mark put on and all that stuff. Yeah. He is a stone wall. It doesn't affect him in any way. Now, that doesn't preclude the author from still putting on, like, Raftalia for display for our benefit as the audience. So I'm with you on that. Like, getting Firo here at the end of the episode as, like, the new lolly who's going to be with them. Like, that's cool, too. But it's the way he interacts with them. It's in no way is it like fucking, what's his name? Tenchi in Tokyo. Tenchi setup where he's got, like, Tenchi all these girls vying for his cock. It is not like that. And later on, my point is that I feel that the real intention of the author is kind of to, like, he sets up the story in such a way where it's like our main character, he pretty much starts hating women, but then he comes into contact. In fact, his party, as far as I got, was only women. You know, so far that we had met up to the part that I got through in the manga, and every single one of them was in a way sort of a different facet of femininity that he, like, has a new way of, like. Firo is like the little girl, like the daughter aspect. Raftalia, kind of the daughter, but more like the love interest, like peer, I guess. Like, it's him recognizing that, like, you know what, these sluts, maybe they're all not so bad. These roasties, maybe some of them are redeemable. So I'm not going to pretend that there isn't any. I'm not going to pretend that there isn't any, like, you know, titillation of, like, cute new party members that all happen to be girls. That's definitely part of it.
Of course, but this is an isekai anime at the end of the day.
Exactly. But to just brush it off as, like, that's all that the story is, I mean, absolutely not. That doesn't undo everything else that's going on inside the head of the character. And this, I mean, the more interesting thing to me about his character and meeting all these women and joining his party is the whole, like, redemption thing of, like, not discriminating against women or whatever, not, like, healing the hatred inside of him. That's what, like, they're more like family members than, you know, a harem or anything. So, you know, obviously Firo hasn't had a chance to do very much in that capacity yet. I'm not trying to jump the gun, but, like, knowing the little bit more about the story, I think that those fears, I see where they're coming from, but I would encourage people not to give up just yet, because nothing in this episode.
I would honestly say that I think that this episode is in some way trying to play into that as a as like a misdirect, because this whole episode, the whole vibe of it is everything's going great now. You know, like, and a big part of that is downplaying the threat of our previous villains. That
indeed
we this whole time we've had everyone's against the shield hero, everyone's fucking, you know, got his balls in a vice. But now we're at a point where the other heroes, other than Spear Hero, are kind of on his side. The villagers are on his side. Even the king is kind of being, you know, twisted to capitulate to him a little bit. But more importantly, we're introduced to this also very powerful queen figure who seems to have his back on some level. And we know this is a matriarchal society, so assumably the queen might be even more powerful than the king. And so we're now in a position where we're like, well, shit, now it kind of feels like everyone's on Shield Hero's side, and suddenly our bad guys seem like a couple of petty, cheating assholes who everyone is starting to recognize for who they are and not be able to take seriously anymore. So it almost feels like this whole episode is setting us up for this idea that, hey, we've turned the tide. Everything's okay now. And when I see that happening, all I can think is, that's not gonna last. Surely we're being set up here because it's too good to be true, you know?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I mean,
like, who's gonna be the new, like, if these villains are such clowns, who's gonna be the new villain? Because these guys, it clearly is trying to make us feel like they are not as threatening as they seemed. That, like, they did so much to fuck up his life, but now they're just a couple of clowns who can't even beat him in, like, a stupid race.
Yeah. So, despite cheating the whole time, they're still just not good enough. Yeah.
So, like, what is going to be the new challenge for him? There has to be something that's, you know, going to be bigger and badder than what he thought were his problems before. Just going by storytelling logic, you know. Yeah.
We're past, like, the initial, I guess, roughly third. Like, the first arc of the series is basically at a close. Where, like, the first wave has happened. Like, him getting his feet planted in this world is over. He's relatively established now. And he's overcome, like, his first trial. So, now, this is going to be, like, a 24-episode series, right? In the end?
I think so. And I'll say that this episode had a very start of book 2 feel to it.
Yes.
Which I don't even know if that's exactly what it is. But when it comes to light novel anime, you can usually sense when you've started the next book. Because light novels almost always start off with slice of life stories, and then they get serious as they introduce whatever the villain of this book is going to be. So it very much felt like that. All right, let's see where things stand now at the start of the new book, introduce a new character, you know, relegate the previous villains to the background so we can introduce something bigger, such as this queen character who we know nothing about so far, and who is extremely menacing because her little spies, like, show up in front of the princess and are just like, hey, we caught you fucking around. Like, we own your life, you know? So these people are clearly a lot scarier.
It's funny. You can compare them. Like, we see these female spies showing up and, like, making a huge difference versus the all-male guard that presumably works under the king that have been bumbling incompetence, like, the entire time. So, matriarchy, is that implying anything? I don't know. Just a funny observation. And we've seen those ninjas, like, in the shadows before in the show up to this point. Didn't know what they were doing, but, like, at least once I remember seeing one on screen, like, just observing and stuff. So we know they're around doing some stuff. And
do you think that's the kind of thing you noticed just because you were looking for them, like you knew who they were?
I mean, I was definitely looking for them, but you know, if you went back and looked for those guys, I forget exactly where, but they show up a handful of times, like in the even in the foreground, I think, but just very briefly. But the only other thing I wanted to say about, like, the queen's little scene at the beginning was that she mentioned specifically, I mean, we see it, like, at the end of her little scene, we see, like, a cityscape that looks very different from, like, the kingdom that we are in. I don't even, Melomark or something. So clearly it looks like she's elsewhere right now. But it's interesting, like, she's talking about, like, we can't let other countries, blah, blah, blah. We can't let our neighbors meddle with our affairs or something. It's interesting to me to think about, like, the international politics going on in this world, considering, like, okay, slavery is legal, for example. in Melanomark, or whatever this country is. I wonder what the outside world thinks about this. You know, everything that's going on in this one country, like, do the waves affect these other nations going on outside? I don't know. I'm interested to see what comes of that. Because even as far as I got in the series, not much came of that. And I don't know if the anime is going to get past where I got to, but I don't know. Just now that that's
kind of... How many chapters did you read? Like, how caught up are you on Shield Hero?
I mean, I have not read it steadily in over a year, I'm sure. Okay. Probably longer than that, so there's quite a ways. There's like 50 chapters or something now. I don't know. Anyway.
It only publishes like monthly, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
But basically, I mean, but getting back to just what happens in this episode. So first of all, let me correct myself. I said Melty for the name of Malty, who's, you know, Princess Bitch. My mistake. Her name is in fact Malty or something, Malty. So okay, my bad. Sorry about that, everybody. But aside from that, like we just see at the beginning, the fucking king giving out rewards for their performances in the raid that just happened. Everybody's getting their, you know, big dick rewards. He's gonna get his 500 bits. He doesn't get it because, we need to pay for the fucking slave crest removal that we forced upon you. Yeah, like
who decides what that costs? You know, like,
they probably just fucking made it up off the top of their ass. Plus, like, it wasn't even deserved. It was literally through cheating that they then went back on. So obviously he shouldn't have to pay for it. I mean,
not
whatever.
to mention the slave crest removal was not asked for by anyone. So
no one wanted it. Not even the slave in question. So. That's pretty amusing.
Okay, I will say the one thing about this episode that made me raise an eyebrow a little bit was the fact that she just gets the crest put back on.
Okay, let's talk about that, because that is interesting.
It's what was weird about it to me is that it's not even so much that it seemed out of character as just unnecessary and fetishistic. It's like, and I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just corny. Like, as a gesture, I understand why, like, emotionally, why the author would have thought that this seemed like a good idea.
Sure.
But, like, in terms of the actual narrative, I'm just like, that is so unnecessary that the only reasons I can imagine doing it are either A, that you like the idea of the girl being a slave. Because it's hot. Or B, that you just thought this would be really sentimental and, like, it just comes off as cheesy and forced to me.
Yeah, I definitely get both of those aspects to it. I lean more into the second one about it being like a sentimental thing. Because, like, I don't know, she's been a slave for a long time. I mean, she had some abusive masters or something. But, like, now she's with this one good master. He treats her, I mean, you know, it's a little bit more of a relationship.
There's just no reason to renew the, fucking... Yeah. She knows he doesn't, like, he even says, like, you don't have to do this, like...
Yeah, he is clear. He's like, you know? This is not necessary. She insists upon it, and she wants it. So, okay, like, it to me, it kind of shows a bit of, like, a Stockholm-y kind of broken mind, where, like, she thinks that she needs to be his slave to, like... be attached, but like the way it's presented in the scene, well, okay, first of all, let's just remember, he's never used the slave crest to hurt her in any time except when she was like scared to fight as like a motivational tool. And you can still call that fucked up. That's fair. But I mean, she doesn't think of it that way. And, you know, like he was willing to like let her just leave when it seemed that that wasn't motivating her enough. So, you know, fair enough on that point. But I mean, obviously the intent here is just to be, like, sentimental and possibly erotic, I guess. But I lean more into the sentimentality of it.
I find myself thinking, like, I wish that they presented Raftalia as maybe more damaged if they were going to go this route. You know?
Which they do not. They've given up, basically, on that.
Because I love Raftalia. I think she is super, like, the scene where she stops him from, like, saying anything to the king, where she's just like, isn't it nice that we got that money? Let's get the, like, now we don't have to be here anymore. And it's like, she is a good, like, caretaker for him. She's good at, like, understanding his flaws and figuring out, like, how to help him through situations, you know? And she's, as the episode goes on, you get more and more, she's getting very wifely, very almost motherly towards him, where she's... You know, she's got such a good read on him, and I think it's because just he's all she's really thinking about.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, all she's thinking is like, how can I be the most useful to this guy that I possibly can? So in that sense, I get why she got the thing back, but I just wish that was presented as more of a daft decision than it was, you know, and not just like kind of a cutesy thing that she did, because it's just a little like it's just a little much, you know.
Yeah.
But that's all. I mean, beyond that, I'm totally fine with her character. It was just corny to me, you know.
I suppose that's fair.
But there's a lot of corny shit in this story. I mean, like...
Yeah, that's for sure. But, like, you know, it brings me back to, like, is she even really a slave at this point? I mean, I don't really feel that she is. Because, like, if she asked to be free at this point, I feel like he would set her free, like, without hesitation. It's just that she chooses to wear those comforting shackles around herself that are... kind of, you know, dark.
It feels kind of like a metaphor for, like, an engagement ring, almost. Like, they try to make it almost like that, you know?
I mean, you know, what's the difference between, like here's just a question. Why do people get married if they can just agree to, like, you know, live together and be loyal their whole lives? It's literally something to force you to do it so you don't, like, pussy out of it or something later on. And it's kind of a comforting shackle, I guess, even in real life. It's just there to, like, be a reminder that, like, you made a vow. You're committed to this thing. It's just that this one will hurt you instantly if you try to go against it, whereas the other one will hurt you for the rest of your life in goddamn divorce court when I finally get back my fucking money, you piece of shit roasty whore. I will get my revenge. But anyway, I have no personal issues with that. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so people can have their own thoughts about that, whatever they like. I do kind of get why some people are a little bit weirded out by that aspect. Raftalia's damaged.
It's me who's just a little bit weirded out. Again, it's not even that I think it's like a bad writing decision. I just wish that they presented her as like a little more... Like as they questioned it more, you know, like if the narrative made her seem a little weirder for doing that, you know.
The way, even as it's presented now, what it makes me feel like Raftalia is just super comfortable with the idea of being a slave at this point, and it doesn't even bother her. And I guess that's fair. She, you know, slavery worked out pretty well for her in the end, so let's just settle back into that, I guess.
I will say it was worth it, though, for the joke afterwards where he, like, is talking about reselling her because her value's gone up.
That was
pretty funny.
And also, of course, it's a framing device to get them into the the slave shop for the next thing that happens. I suppose this could have been done another way, but our friendly slaver is selling these gotcha monster eggs that he scoops up. And that's pretty cool. They have, like, these, the fucking chocobos.
Yeah, he hatches a fucking chocobo, and it becomes a big fat fuck chocobo. Who is also a little lolly girl for some reason.
Indeed. They will explain that a little bit later, but right now it's amusing. I don't even really have that much to say about all of that. So, blah, blah, blah. He goes to the village. They hatch their filial. Yay, it's a capable, you know, chocobo. You can ride on it. It's fun. Yay. Yeah. They get to the village. Just out of nowhere, the shield hero shows up, says, I'm a be lord now. Let's do this. And Malty, whatever. So they're doing it. The shield hero says,
he was
no,
refusing.
Don't.
For what it's worth, he was refusing to be lord, but they were like, come on.
That's true. I'm not even sure if he is lord.
I think he is because he won.
He won the contest, so I guess he is until proved otherwise. It's just that there was an old man who's like, I'm the lord right now, and I kind of like things the way they are. So, like, what happened to that guy? I don't know. I guess he's just out of a fucking job. He gave them that wagon at the end though, which was nice. He seemed to know what was up with that. Oh, actually, sorry. Before we get to this whole thing about Firo, I just wanted to say how incredibly satisfying it was as a big, like, JRPG fan. Like, so after we get done with the whole, you know, fucking the king exchange at the beginning, and he gets his shekels and then pieces out. He's got the monster egg, and then he goes around town like reaping the benefits of like having saved those people. He goes to like the herb shop where the guy gives him a tome about how to make like more advanced medicines. He goes to because like his like grandson or something was saved in the fight. He goes to the magic shop, or in fact, he's actually told to go to the magic shop by that medicine man because he's got a friend whose grandson was saved by them defending the village. They get a new fucking tome and they get told that their like magic specialities are defense and support magic for him and light and dark, edgy magic for her. Because she's like a raccoon tanuki or something. I don't know. So she can make illusions, hopefully. So I just want to say, and like we see him like learning some new skills and powering up and stuff. This is super satisfying. Like when you beat an arc, you get new skills, you get new abilities, you're grinding up stuff. Super satisfying, and I fucking love it.
Yeah, going around town leveling up and shit. I would almost compare it to like a Persona game because there's like one central town that you keep coming back to and seeing the same people but leveling up. This is one of those cases. I've developed such a complex relationship with this show now because of the fact that I had read the manga up to this point. Like I'd read the first 4 episodes worth of stuff, and I had not read anything that was in this episode. So we talked before about how the anime tones it down a little bit. Just like the manga was a bit darker, especially in the fact that he had the dark circles under his eyes and everything. And you had this like persistent sense of him being really beaten down. And the anime kind of made it more obvious that things were going to lighten up eventually and didn't convey him as beaten up as the manga did. And so
agreed.
Even though I never made it this far in the manga, I felt as though had I been reading the manga, I would have been more satisfied by this episode. Because I remember when I read the manga having felt like he had been like really at rock bottom for like a long time. And in the anime, I don't quite have that sense. I kind of feel like it was evident almost from like episode 2 that he was going to come around and be respected and liked by people. So it just had a little bit less impact, him like having this moment of levity where everything's going okay finally, and like he's earned the right to be respected by people because it was just so obvious that we were getting to this point.
But
I don't know how much of that from me is informed by having read the manga. I just it just left me feeling like, man, I wish the anime had been darker up to this point.
I agree, and we've been talking about before, like the things like all the townsfolk like helping him and like giving him new tomes to use to level up and stuff. Like it just feels that much more like not even surprising, but it feels more special because like they've been helping him even in like the manga up to this point. But like the fact that we didn't get like those moments that were in the anime of like the villagers are like, we're gonna stay and fight with you, and like we see more people like really being on his side. To see the villagers like now helping him feels more obvious and therefore like less impactful when they do. So yeah, I mean, I'm just agreeing with you basically. The more dark and edgy and bad things seemed, the more satisfying it is when things start to go well as they are now. So yeah, it is what it is, and it's not bad, but it just I'm never gonna complain about things being more dark and edgy, so that they can turn around and be more satisfying that way.
So, like, overall, though, this episode, like, this very much is the lighthearted one. It's like, hey, things are okay right now. Let's have a goofy little adventure. Yesterday's enemy is today's buffoon. People respect Shield Hero. It's a fun time. It obviously didn't have the emotional impact of the last episode where, we'd reached this sort of apex of, the fever pitch of everyone against Shield Hero, and now it almost feels like that's been washed away. And again, I understand why some people would watch this episode and leave it feeling like, oh, the whole point is gone. And I left it feeling like, okay, this must be a ruse, because I mean that's what it was from the beginning. In the first episode, everything was going okay up to a point, and then it was, oh shit, everything's bad. So I commend the show for giving me that kind of trust issue with the show, I can't trust this to be okay because that's not how things work in this universe,
I mean, yeah, I really don't want to bring in my remembrance, because it's honestly been a while anyway since I even touched like this far in the manga. So I'll just say, yeah, I'm also interested to see how that goes, because I certainly don't remember like the next thing that happens. And I obviously there's always the looming, it's mentioned in this episode, the next wave's in a month or so. So he's got this new angel little girl, this bird girl. He's got new spells available to him. He is we see him unlocking new stuff for his shield.
Like the show has given us this impression that because one of the characters says like, the second wave will probably be just as easy as the first. We don't know if that's true, and I haven't really thought about that until just now. But
indeed,
we don't know what the fuck's gonna happen. So it sounds like you know something. It sounds like I might have hit the nail on the head there. But...
maybe we'll see.
All right, well, what else do you feel about this episode?
Yeah. Okay. Here's one funny observation I had. Okay. Here's my observation. So, slave tattoo goes on Raphtalia's chest. Who the fuck gets a tattoo across your titties? Like, that's a terrible place to put it up like on your fucking flat, neck section instead of like just doesn't that look dumb? Like, why would you weirdly tattoo like down the side of the titty, up the other side of the other titty to make like a weird circle? That annoyed me. Biggest complaint about this entire series is that
I think
happened.
She just wants him to look at her tits.
That was absolutely part of her plan here, and I commend her for it. Nonetheless, it just seems impractical, and I don't know why they did that.
Should have been a belly tat.
Belly tattoo. That would have been a great place. I know she had the crest on her chest before, but that was when she was a flat chest lolly. So, just saying. Okay, but that's not a real point. Other than that, I don't know. I guess it's nice to see. You pretty much summed it up. Things are looking very positive, and it's almost saccharine to see like the other, like the sword knight and the bow knight actually like be on his side. It's like things have been so fucked up, to actually see them just like being reasonably nice to him is I don't know. I'm ready for more pain. I want more suffering and trauma.
In a way, it's good to remind us that this world has some humanity, because the real world can be extremely unreasonable in the same way that it was in this show. And we talked about in the first episode of this, where we were saying like, these kinds of things do happen. People do get this, people get fucked like this, but not all the time. Not even necessarily normally. And so, like, if this world had been just so insistent on beating up on him after he had done so much and, like, proven himself, it might have become questionable at some point. Like, all right, this is a little much. Like,
that's true.
Can this guy not catch a break? So to see him catch a break does lend a little more reality to it. Even if I will say that I do think that pushing... Mine or Malty to be quite so goofily evil at some point made her like a really stupid character.
She has certainly become silly as of this episode, with just her flailing attempts to like what is even like the stakes here, lord of this village, they're so low, and she's still incompetently floundering to try to help Spear Guy win. Yeah, pretty much that arc, maybe it's not, but it feels over. That like all of that is.
I mean, this episode felt like very much a farce. It felt like the whole point of it was just to be a fun, weird, goofy time that's just showing us how incompetent these villains actually are once people have caught on to their villainy.
Indeed.
That like these are not the real enemies, and their reasoning was always petty. They only got away with it because she's the princess and he's one of the, the four legendary heroes, and Shield Hero had so little knowledge going into this world. But now that he has knowledge and he has some power, he can, it's not so easy to fuck with him,
That's true. So yeah, it's good to see. And I don't know. I guess my only other comments like on the episode was during the race, some kind of shitty CG of Firo and of the dragon, but I'm used to it for the show. It's not good,
I didn't think it
but
was that bad.
Yeah, it was
acceptable.
It was all right. But I mean, this episode
was
was very
used to much worse.
Indeed. This episode was very much a like setting up for future things. It was like building up. We've got like a new dude on the crew who we'll learn about more next episode and stuff. That's pretty dope. We're getting new spells and abilities.
Something I badly need is more explanation of what Firo's going to be like. Because in this episode, Firo's personality is just,
Bird.
I hatched and this is my guy and I will do anything. I am so happy to work for this guy. And so now both teammates have the same personality currently. It's just, I will do anything for my dude. And I understand, like, I could easily see certain people after watching this episode being like, nope. Both of his teammates are girls who will do anything for him. Nope.
I mean, I would get that, but like, I think the show has earned a certain degree of trust that it won't just get overly saccharine and whatnot. Yeah. So yeah, I'd say people who feel that way, give it the benefit of the doubt, at least for one more episode, to see Firo doing some more stuff.
And I'll say that this, for my taste, this episode got a little cheesy. I do think it could have stood to. It was like a little too much in the other direction. It was like the pendulum swaying too far, and like this is so like happy-go-lucky that it feels like the point is just to lull me into a false sense of security. And if you're doing it that obviously, it's not going to work as well.
I see what you mean.
It's not going to disarm me in the same way that it should. It doesn't actually make me feel like everything's going to be this way from now on. It makes me feel like, all right, where's the rub? Like, when are you going to hit me with the dark?
Yeah.
So,
well, I guess
I'm
let's
still
just
enjoying it. I had fun.
Me too. I had a lot of fun watching it. Race was cheesy, but that's life sometimes. So I'm still having a good time. Looking forward to next week.
Me too. I guess that's it for this episode of the Shield Hero Weekly. Tune in next week for more Shield Hero Weekly with Best Guy Ever.
Bye.
Bye.